Hello and welcome to Hardcast, and join us on the adventures of Bloodsquirt and all associated toys and playsets. I'm Humphrey Erm.
And I am Christian Claus.
Lifeline. Give me Bloodshot Reborn, Volume 1, Colorado.
So, Chris.
Darn it. Just, I was going to say something different just because of that, but I just naturally was going to say so, Chris.
I think you've said so, Chris, at the beginning of every single episode.
Yeah, I got that was the point why you said it there. And I was going to like, oh, well, I'm not going to give you that satisfaction. It's like, oh, crap, I can't know what else to say. So is it a reborn or not?
How much did you struggle to not say so, Chris?
Yes, it's the perfect word.
All right, so you were asking if it is a reborn. I don't know. I mean, he's not reborn yet, technically, I guess. I mean...
No, but as a franchise, so to speak. I mean, he was never, as I said last time we read about him, he was like gone except for like the Valiant.
I don't know if this is a season 2. I mean, I don't know what... I was about to say... I don't know if this is necessarily a reborn thing. I mean, it doesn't seem like a new story. It just it's a continuation. It's like if it was a how should I say, like if it was a season 2. I mean, that's like the perfect kind of season 1 finale kind of thing where he's dead or he's now human again and now everything's going to change. And I mean, this is like pretty much a season 2. It's not like a there's no rebirth here. It's just him season 2.
All right, kind of like a revamp, like kind of like, okay, I see we had some issues with season 1. People didn't like this character, or
no, I think it's more
these things happening. Let's try to go at it from a different angle.
I don't know. I think it's more like one of those things where it's kind of like with Arrow when it got into like its season 2 or whatever. It was different, but because like what happened at the end of season 1, I can't even remember. But it felt like
it was this fight with Merlin.
Yeah, but do you remember how like there was always so much stuff changing? How we were always talking about this, that it constantly felt like that stuff was just changing all the time. And I don't know, I just feel like this is kind of like what this reborn thing is here, is that there's a status quo change at the end of season 1. And now season 2 comes around, and now we're going to be like, okay, it's all the same characters that you like, or in this case, character, but we're going to bring him on a different path. Now it's more like, okay, he lost all this stuff, but it kind of feels cheap because he's technically going back to be Bloodshot anyway. I mean, I guess that's why they call it Reborn. But it just feels like, it doesn't feel like a new thing. You know what I mean? It just feels like, especially because it is a literal continuation of the last time we saw him. So it feels very cheap, honestly.
All right. Yeah, no, I wasn't insinuating that this was like like a reboot in the terms of again, I think revamp is the word for it.
Well, even then it's still not really
no, but also like for like trying to lure in the new readers, I think. I mean, the intro to this comic is very like, okay, here's the basics.
Yeah, but see, that's still one of those things where I think did I mention this on a previous podcast once? The whole thing like that, that the comic should have seasons as well.
Yeah, one big story that's then collected into it more than.
Well, yeah, but the fact that you would constantly have like new number 1s, because you could be like, okay, this is season 2 number 1. You know what I mean? And was that the point that I was making? Well, just because I hate how there's always all these different universes and all these different kind of like how you were saying that how stories kept getting rebooted so that then you could like get new number 1s and stuff like that. And I was just thinking that why don't you just make them seasons? So you have like one season where like for like, I don't know, 12 or 13 issues, and then you start a season 2 with another number 1 where another more people can jump on, and you can kind of continue the story, or you can change it up. It doesn't matter because it's just like a season thing, I don't know. I just feel like that would be also much more clear because I think I understand that one of the reasons why I didn't get into comics as a kid or anything like that because I would have to start at like issue 200 and something, and I didn't want to do that. And I also feel like nowadays because there's so many reboots, it's also too much of a. I'm also constantly kind of thinking like, okay, well, what does this mean? Like, what do I still have to read? Does this connect with the previous, iteration or not? Or do I have to kind of check all that stuff out, or do I have to read up on it on Wikipedia? Can I read it up? Do I have to read it up on like actual comics or whatever? And I feel like if it was seasoned, because that's also something that we as that we as a generation that has been like brought up by movies and stuff like that and TV, we understand what seasons are. So I think if we would see constantly like the Buffy comics do, which apparently the Buffy comics are horrible.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe we're going to go. Let's jump into a little bit of Buffy comics on the side here. Like, let's do a little segment. Buffy comics. Holy shit! It's completely different from the series. Like the
Also, like the
character is
pacing?
different. I mean, no, but the the actual like characters are so different. Like my girlfriend was like she's been reading all the comics now. I've been trying to like get to it, but I never can because again, apparently, if I don't have a podcast to talk about comics, I won't read comics. But she was saying that I mean, if anyone cares about spoilers for the comic, I guess skip over this. But Buffy falls in love with Xander, which just never happened in the comic. Buffy also sleeps with a woman, which is also like, okay, why? I mean, this like it just feels very like they're just trying to, make some noise, even though it doesn't really make sense. So yeah, okay. Anyway, segment over. So I just feel like if you had seasons, because Buffy does have these seasons. So basically, the next Buffy comic is called Season 8. So that's the 8th season. So it basically is a continuation from the TV series, which I think is a great idea, if only they hadn't messed it up. But I feel like that would make much more sense if I could see here, okay, this is Bloodshot Season 1, Issue 1. And then you have your little thing, and then the whole thing happens with, because then you can even have those crossover seasons, those crossover events, because that's, I mean, no one has a problem when it happens on like the Flash and Arrow and Supergirl and stuff like that. They're just like, oh, okay, it's a crossover episode, that's okay. And then we can have our little giant little thing where it says like, okay, well, if you want to read, if you want to read this crossover, you need to have read season 3 of, I don't know, Eternal Warrior. You have to read season 2 of Bloodshot and all that stuff, or you don't have to because they just all, it explains everything. And then, you can just have these seasons and have like, now this would be Bloodshot season 2 after what had happened in the little crossover event. And I think that would be just so much more understandable for people. And, jumping on points, I think if you just put, number 1 everywhere is fine. And also people would know how much they need to go, need to read up on. Like if there's like, oh, this is season 12, episode 1, that's okay. And then you can cancel that series. You can keep the characters and then put it into a different series. You can just be like, okay, we're going to revamp this now after 12 seasons. Because now we have enough kind of stories with this kind of character. Now we're going to kind of change him up, like actually change him up, not like this, change him up like with this guy here. All right, I've been talking for 10 minutes now. Your turn.
I was going to mention as well that I think this is a record for an episode to start talking about anything other than Valiant. I checked and we were like 3 minutes in and we stuck talking about Arrow.
Okay.
Again, yes,
then we started talking about Buffy and yeah. I mean, I don't know. I feel you didn't start.
I feel it's a very. I like the more. I guess you could say kind of slower pace of this.
Yeah, that was.
And also
nice,
kind of like a little bit more grounded. Like here, it's a lot. Like with the first series, it was a lot more about fantastic things in a fantastic world.
Yeah.
Okay, we got him, super soldier, but he's fighting against like, the evil organization that also has like super soldiers and similar things. But here it's like, okay, here we have a super soldier with all these powers. And sure, he's fighting against people who have his same powers, but it's treated a lot more like the stakes feel stronger here, even though they are technically a bit smaller. Like it doesn't really feel like you're not really getting this whole feeling of, oh no, it's going to take over the whole world, or it's okay. I don't know, maybe
It
it's me
doesn't.
being desensitized to like mass shootings in the US. But here's kind of like, oh yeah, well, it's just a mass shootings. Like again, terrible, but I don't know, just the way it's set up here, it feels like, yeah, this is, more of a smaller scale thing going on here. But I find it a lot more approachable, the story. Like I really kind of just want to see more of like, okay, well, let's see how he fixes this. So like, cause again, it's just nicer, and the grittiness feels a lot more suitable here. Like here, when the violence happens, it just feels a lot more. I'm gonna say believable, but I don't know. It affects me more. I'm much more like, ooh, that was pretty violent, or like, ooh, that was dramatic.
Well, yeah, because it has to do with the scale or the way that the characters are reacting too. I mean, that's just storytelling right there.
So exactly.
I mean, it's a difference if you just saw your characters slaughter like 100 people, like they did in that one island at one time when they were under mind control and stuff like that, or not under mind control, but the whole mind control thing.
Oh yeah, the Unity thing with when they
Right,
escape. Yeah.
right. I mean, that's one thing. But then if you talk about like, okay, these are innocent people dying, and yeah, it does feel more realistic. I mean, also the reaction feels a lot more realistic, and I don't know if they were they doing that whole thing with the movie theater massacre I guess it would be called a massacre that happened on the
Oh, the Dark Knight
Batman.
Rises.
Yeah.
I can't remember when that was. When did that movie come out? Because this is from
I can't
2015, the
remember.
comic.
When did Dark Knight come out?
Well, Dark Knight, the first one. Well, the Dark Knight came out 2008. I remember. Oh God. Oh
When did
God,
the
it's
Dark
almost
Knight
10
come out?
years. Oh God. Oh. Sorry. I guess it's for some reason every so often the last few weeks I've gotten reminders of how old I am. And it's just each time it just hits me like, oh God, it's been so long since
When
this
did the
thing.
Dark Knight Rises come out?
You're asking me?
Nope. I'm asking Siri.
The Dark Knight Rises was published July 26, 2012.
That was 2012. So it did happen already.
Oh yeah, then probably specifically referenced there. Or yes, to quote
So what
like
things
BoJack
have you
Horseman,
been
yes, there are more and more locations that you can't have gunfights anymore in movies.
right? What all have you been hearing about that you're getting older? 27 now, huh?
So yep. No, it's just it's just the thing, because a lot of things, yes, feels like, oh, just a couple of years ago. And a couple of years ago, I think, can maybe at most be 5 years. I mean, I know it shouldn't be, it should be 2 years, but that's what I kind of mean when I say it. But then it's like, oh God, it's almost 10 years now. It's like, no, but this is like a modern classic. This only came out like a little while ago.
If you think about that, 10 years ago, you and I met.
Damn. Oh yeah, we got a 10-year anniversary.
Yeah, we had our 10-year anniversary this year. Oh yeah, and you totally forgot about it. No, I'm joking.
Well, I am the man in the relationship.
Yeah. Yeah. Anyway, so back to Bloodshot.
Yes.
Yes.
No,
so I mean, yeah, again, it does feel more realistic in this sense, and I kind of like that. It felt more like the goals were more kind of, they felt more attainable, like from my perspective as well. Like they felt more, as you said, realistic. It was something where I could be like, okay, so I understand that there are these many people dying because of something that he's done. He's now actually powerless to stop them. I mean, obviously he's getting stronger and stronger, which again, it looks like it's interesting when he's weaker. The whole fight also felt more interesting because then when he was able to start regenerating a little bit again, and he was feeling more like started getting more nanites in him, it started to get more boring because he started to become more OP. I would have loved to see how he could solve getting into the police precinct without having his little shape-shifting thing going on.
Did you remember he had that now?
Well, I remember it, yeah. But, it's just one of those things where, like, he was even talking about it, and he's like, oh, this would be so easy, if I had my little thing. And then he just has it, and it's just like, come on, like, either, like, I was thinking, like, okay, well, at least have it like, fail, like, halfway through or something like that, because the nanites aren't strong enough to hold it. But it's like,
oh,
nope,
yeah, and then, well, it kind of. I mean, he had to, like, what's called, put that guy to sleep and stuff.
Yeah, but still, I mean, it didn't... I just wanted to see a little bit more struggle on his side, being more human. I feel like it would have been better if he had like none of his abilities until he got all of them, like all of the nanites together again. Because it just feels so much more interesting because he has now this normal weakness that we also have. And again, he is an amazing soldier. That's the whole thing. I mean, it's just like with Batman, you take away his suit, he's still a ninja,
Yeah, no, of course. And it's always, I mean, that's the whole thing. And I think that's one of the issues, for example, with characters like Superman. It's
exactly.
kind of tricky. I mean, it can be entertaining seeing him accomplish things, yes, for the spectacle of it. But you don't have this same kind of like, ooh, let's see him like beat up this guy who's, well, either you have someone who is stronger than him, which just gets ridiculous, or he's fighting against someone who he can beat anyways, and it's usually just what's the word? The contrived reasons why he doesn't just beat him immediately.
Right.
And I agree, like I mean, this is a lot more engaging when you, especially as longtime readers, we know all the powers of Bloodshot. So the idea of someone who knows like what he's about to like confront and still doing it, there's a lot more bravery involved, and just much more like engaging and interesting. I was actually thinking while reading through this, like it's a perfect game setup in terms of like leveling up for every like boss encounter.
Oh god.
No, I'm not saying specifically making a game of this scenario, but the setup of the nanites, like getting him out there and then basically picking like a skill tree, I guess.
Yeah.
It's just like within the context of the world, like it would work. Of course, not like for unless you want to switch it up a bit, but it wouldn't work for like an entire game because unless you split up into like 20 people with the powers, then it'd be a bit too much, I guess.
Yeah, but speaking of like OP, I mean, I'm really looking forward to watching some One Punch Man.
Oh yeah, on that anime, that German anime streaming.
Yeah, the anime on demand. I just realized that the German Crunchyroll is not that great. It doesn't have any of the good stuff on there. The one thing that I really wanted to watch was that My Hero Academia, and now I found that they have that on My Anime, or what is it called? Anime on Demand. So, and I saw that they have One Punch Man on there too, so I'm going to be binging that then. Yay. After I finish My Hero Academia. And apparently that's like using a power like Superman's power like well in storytelling. That's what I've heard, and that's what I'm kind of interested in seeing what it's like.
Well, it discusses the whole idea of having a literal like invincible hero.
Right.
But either way, back to the actual Valiant.
Yes.
I'm just looking at the last page of the first issue there, and I don't know, just something. It reminds me a bit like with the Punisher and other heroes and such. I just love it. Like, okay, let's do this, but first branding. He paints the red circle on his chest.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I don't know. Like, of course, it's part of the design. I do want it to have it, but just something when the superhero character is fashion conscious.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, it's kind of like the same thing, like when like in Captain America, the Winter Soldier one, when he says if you're gonna fight in a battle, you're gonna have to wear a uniform.
Mm.
And then he comes in with his, uniform thing, or the Stanley cameo comes.
Yeah, but even there's at least some kind of tactical use for it. I'm sure it's like protective in some ways, and maybe helps them as like mobility. Like in this case here, it's like if anything, it'll make it harder for him because now people are, hey, does that guy have like red circle like all those mass killers?
Yeah, but I think that's the whole idea, is that, he's representing Bloodshot, like the actual Bloodshot. I mean, it's all about, yeah, I mean, it is a symbol thing. I mean, it's a metaphor, basically. I mean, he's coming in there saying like, no, look, I am here and I'm going to be representing the proper Bloodshot. And that's why I'm wearing this. I'm not going to be just some random person who's coming in, defeating all these people. No, I'm going to represent something as well. And that's what he's doing there. Not,
Won't real
not like,
Bloodshots please stand up? Please stand up.
Who's that by?
Eminem.
Okay.
Slim Shady.
Good. Which one?
Hmm?
Which one? Slim Shady or Eminem?
So isn't that the same guy?
Is it?
I don't know. So I just know that the tune, and I felt like, well, it's kind of like Spartacus, but Slim Shady instead, and in this case, Bloodshot.
Okay. Moving on.
So, well, here's a more like specific thing. Thoughts on Bloodsquirt?
I hate him.
All right.
Moving on.
No, I mean, I don't know, like me personally, I get the point of him. It's similar. He's taking a similar role to those children from the first like series. Like the children talking to him. But I don't know, it feels just like it's trying to be more clever than it is.
Yeah.
Like it kind of feels like it's trying to jab at like modern cartoons and commercialism within that. But I don't know, it just doesn't really feel, what would the word be? Not genuine, but because it's obviously not genuine. But I don't know, it feels like they're making a point that's not really there or something. So is that similar how you feel, or?
I don't know. I don't really think I paid too much attention to him. I just kind of, I don't know. It's just kind of annoying because he's like Scrappy Doo. No one likes him.
I never minded him when I was a kid, so I never understood why in the movie they made him the bad guy.
Oh yeah, that happened.
I mean, I know that's the whole thing. I mean, it's like on TV tropes, it's its own like trope, the Scrappy.
Yeah, it's the shitty little brat that then joins the team to kind of pull in the young audience. Be like, look, there's someone like you on the team now too.
Yeah, but I definitely hope they're not trying to lure in kids to reading Bloodshot with this.
Well, no, but that's what he was supposed to, be like. He was supposed to be the kid friendly Bloodshot or whatever. Well, not kid, yeah. You know what I mean? I mean, again, I've only ever seen one series where that worked well, and that was Buffy. But apparently, no one else likes that either. So when Dawn came into the mix, yeah, but I mean, I gotta say, and I don't know if we're pulling this a little bit ahead of schedule or anything like that, but I really like the way that they had it in the last issue, where it was basically Batman and Spider-Man, Batman and Robin.
So in terms of both of them hanging out?
Well, the design was also very Batman and Robin. I mean, I thought, I mean, like when I was looking at the last issue, I mean, I felt like, it looked like Bloodshot was Bruce Wayne.
True. The design, I mean, not that Bruce Wayne has a super specific design, but
no, he doesn't. But I mean, yeah, no, I mean, especially the art style, which was holy crap, just amazing. I mean, I love that art style in the last issue.
Oh, you preferred it over the first ones?
Oh, definitely, yes.
Oh, so wow, because I was going to bring that up. Do you mind if we bring this up now then, or?
Yeah, let's talk about it now, yeah.
Yeah, because my main question was actually, was it a bit of a whiplash, like a sort of a mood whiplash with having 4 hyper render like issues,
Mm.
and then suddenly a bit more of a, I wouldn't call it like stylized.
Stylized.
It's not
Oh, it
stylized,
is.
I'd say. The proportions are too like accurate, I think, to call stylized.
Mm.
It's
Well,
just more flatly
it has this
colored, I
feeling of
think.
this. It has this film noir kind of feel to it, as like a film noir comic. You know what I mean?
Mm.
And I would say that it is very stylized. It's pop
Mm.
art. That's what it is. Pop art.
Yeah, well, I guess it's also kind of a mix of styles, because what's called, because once you get like into Bloodshot's kind of fantasy, no,
Mm.
Bloodspurt's fantasy kind of stuff,
Yeah.
it all gets a lot more like dreamlike.
Yeah. I mean, how did you not get the whole Batman and Robin thing? Because they literally have the Bat
Yeah, yeah,
Dog
no,
in
but I
there.
thought I was thinking the way you were saying it, I was seeing it a lot more like specifically that. But yeah, you're right with the whole like the blood bank and all the blood stuff.
And the dog. I mean,
Mm.
literally, that's
Though I gotta
is right
say,
there.
the theme of it works pretty well. I mean, there's
Yeah.
such a thing as a bloodhound, right?
Yeah. Sure.
So I don't know, the whole like blood theme. If you wanted to go that route with Bloodshot, at least you have actual real world equivalents for everything, so it actually would work.
Yeah. And I gotta say, the design of Bloodsquirt is, it looks like, I guess, Tim Drake, I think.
Nah, I think I'd probably go for Damian Wayne.
Yeah.
Well, more of it, at
I
least
mean,
his more like bloodthirstiness.
yeah. Well, I mean, that's why I'm talking about more of visual design. But I mean, he does look like one of the Robins.
Mm.
Like it looks like he's just a Robin with some colors changed out. And yeah, I mean, Bloodshot looks pretty much like Bruce Wayne in this. But yeah, I love this art style. I mean, because it was just so, because this is kind of the stuff that I want to see in comics. I mean, obviously, this the hyper realistic render stuff that was before is nice. It looks good, but there's just so much. There's something else in this kind of art, and I just feel so much. It just feels so much better reading it like this and having this nice art style to look at. Because I feel like the other stuff, while it's really like crazy how it's so well rendered, um, it does. I don't know. It just. I don't want to say that it gets boring, but that's kind of what it feels like to me. It's kind of like, oh, this is just the typical comic art style now, and then to
Oh,
see
I wouldn't
something
say
like,
typical.
well, no, not okay.
But I know what
With
you mean. It's a bit
yeah,
more. I don't know. I just feel it works really well because you can tell they're going for a much grittier route,
mm,
which is kind of funny considering he was already a super soldier killer with a lot of body counts of a high body count. But the art style here, like I mean, the artist, what was it now? Miko Suwayan. Like, especially looking at the digital exclusives. By the way, we're reading these issue by issue. I bought these as they were coming out the first time, so we don't have them as one volume this time around. But seeing like his pages, like the pencils,
mm,
oh, I'm like, I don't know, like it's the artist in me. I just get like, oh god, look at that.
mm.
Because again, it's not just it's one thing about rendering well, but the fact is that they're well composed as well.
Well, yeah.
So I don't know. For me, reading issue 5, then again, not that issue 5 is drawn badly, but I just felt kind of like I was kind of it'd be kind of like reading Rye,
Mm-hmm.
like it's so cool how such cool like painting style and so much detail and really cool looking, and then the last issue, which is in continuity, is suddenly that style, and it's like that doesn't feel quite as cool now. That was at least my feeling when I read it, because I really like the hyper renderings of Maiko Swayan or Miko Swayan, Maiso Swayan. So I'm just looking like on the what's called on the second to last page of the issue 2 of the like digital exclusives,
Mm-hmm.
when that Bloodshot guy like tackles our Bloodshot, that big splash page in pencils. The veins on that like fake bloodshot in his hands as he grabs around the bloodshot is like, oh, so well constructed, like exaggerated like muscles, but in like a believable way where you can kind of, considering the idea that these are nanites in the bloodstream, I'm imagining that's what kind of happened right there, that they kind of just momentarily pumped up his muscles for that, tackle. And it's just, I don't know, it's just so much. It's one of those images where you just kind of stare at it and just like, oh, it's so beautiful. Like, I mean, honestly, if I could have like the original of this as like, as a poster or something. No, I'm not kissing ass for Michael Swayan here, but it's just like, it's beautiful. Okay. And again, issue 5 is fine, but yes, not. It's I guess not like. I didn't get any of that after having read all of these.
All right then. Weird artist person.
I actually had to also double check when I was figuring out, since I didn't have it as a volume, I had to like double check looking at the volume on Comixology to see which issues were collected. Because I was kind of like, really, issue 5? Because it's so different.
Yeah.
Because I don't know, I'm sure you didn't read the previews for issue 6, I guess it would be.
No.
So, but you saw something about like some with them in a diner or something.
Yeah, I saw that. Yeah.
Yeah, but that's a different artist there who seems to kind of be like a simpler version of the like hyper render. Like it's kind of like proportionately there, but it's not quite as what's called cross hatching and all that. But okay. I think we got like the art out of the way. Oh, actually, just to be nice. Well, not nice, but fair. Let's see. Well done by Raoul Allen with Patricia Martin for what's called the art in issue 5. Again, not bad, just not what I was in the mood for after reading the first 4 issues. But Chris liked you better, so, it's...
Yeah, I loved you. And that's the only opinion that counts on this podcast.
Exactly. So, but actually, speaking of which, then on the last issue here, what do you feel pacing-wise with this volume? I mean, again, it's not that they have to, like, solve everything in this volume, but it feels a lot like just a big setup, in a sense. Are you looking forward to the next volume to see like how this like turns out? Like, does he still hang out with Magic? Will he get all the nanites back?
Yeah,
or will it be like pushed back further? Like, would you see more of this, or do you want something newer after this? I don't know how to describe it.
No, I want to see what happens here. I mean, I'm looking forward to seeing what happens with Magic, and I mean, he did mention. I mean, again, this is one of those. I don't know. It was kind of cringy. I think I even let out an audible groan when it happened. Like when he met her for the first time and had her in the hotel room or the motel room, and then he's just like, I don't remember if I loved her right away or if I loved her later. I was just like, fucking hell. I mean, yeah, that's exactly what it was. It's just, I mean, come on. I hate how every single, like, as soon as there's like a lady in the comic, it's immediately like, oh no, she must be fucked. And yeah, so I mean, I'm assuming that they're going to get together in some way or whatever, and yeah.
Well, Bloodshot is a red-blooded American.
What does that have to do with it?
Well, in terms of like, of course he's going to go for the woman. He's like, he's a randy guy.
Are you saying that that homosexual men cannot be red-blooded Americans?
So no, they're.
Are you saying that homosexual men are not patriots?
No, they're pink-blooded Americans. I don't know. What it's called. I mean, I can tell you're just using that to what's going to make me look bad.
Oh, buddy, you're making yourself look bad.
So, no, but I agree with that stuff. It's, I mean, it's one of those things that, I guess it's still kind of like just a classic kind of like story setup. I mean, it's not like, at least it's not as bad as other like stories could be.
Mm.
I was actually just on CO, and I saw like a picture of from like the Secret of Nim, and I remember with this terrible sequel for that one, it also had like a very forced romance simply because, oh, there's a mouse girl here. Oh, and he's a boy.
Yeah,
And, like, of course, that it's just so forced at the very end. They're like, just all this shit's going on, and then just suddenly, I love you, woohoo! So at least here, there's a bit more this whole scenario in terms of like her saving him, which is immediately just a nicer setup too. Like, sure, she is, she's not like a hero kind of type, but she immediately proved herself useful, and he is kind of like in her depth.
Yeah.
And I feel that, yes, makes the dynamic a lot more interesting. And there's something...
but it still doesn't have to be like one of those like, oh, well, we should totally have sex thing. I mean, they don't have to, just because they, he's in her debt or whatever, doesn't mean that they need to, fall in love or whatever. I mean, especially because it's just so horrible to like have this thing where he's still pining over Kay.
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah. Or she's still pining over Kay and like literally seeing her face everywhere. That he's then still talking about like, oh, now I'm gonna love this other girl, but just because she I came across her, and it just feels so cheap because it's just constantly the same thing of just, I don't know. I feel like this shit just kind of needs to die out. This expectation that as soon as you see some sort of hot girl, you immediately need to mount her.
I'm just thinking Monster Hunter mounting.
Yeah. Oh God, could you imagine just jumping on someone and then stabbing them in the back multiple times until they...
Oh, well, now you had to make it sound weird.
Oh God, what are you stabbing them with? No.
And then everyone helps out.
Oh God.
I'm rushing over. Depending on which version, of course. Nah, that's terrible. I don't know. I felt it's one of those times where it's like a cliche, but I feel it's supported by the tone and specific like instance.
I don't know. I still don't think that stuff should be excusable. I mean, I think our acquaintance Emmy said it best. Just because there's two hot people in the story doesn't mean they need to fuck.
Oh, right. Yeah. I remember. I was kind of like, wait, who said that? And it's like, oh, right.
Yeah. So at one of these things that Humphrey and I went to pitch one of our TV shows, we met this girl who was also pitching a TV show. And when some of the judges were telling her that, oh, it would be nice to see that the two main characters get together in the end or something like that, she completely flipped out. And it was just one of the best things ever.
He was the only one who was like immediately, like everyone else, like us included, were very like, oh, okay, oh yeah, well, yeah, we'll
even though we only got like negative stuff, but we were all like, okay, yeah, and sounds good. And then she's just like, no, fuck that, no. It's so great. But yeah, I think honestly, yeah, it is honestly inexcusable to have that in fiction nowadays. I mean, either you introduce more female characters who can then, you know what I mean, like you would have like a pick, you know what I mean? Because it just feels like, oh, there's a woman here, so she must be the love interest. And and again, if you think about it, how many of the comics that we're reading currently for Valiant have a female lead?
So, well, eventually we'll get Faith.
Yeah, but I'm just saying, like, and again, even though you have we just have Faith, we have another 10 others that are male driven. And then, yeah, you have like Unity or Livewire, who is her own thing, but still not her own comic and that kind of stuff. But
a supporting character.
Yeah, and that's what I mean is that I feel like there has to be
ensemble cast, I think is the word.
Yeah, ensemble cast. Yeah, but I mean, you know what I mean is like here is this typical thing that within 3 or 4 pages of knowing this girl, this magic, she's immediately put into that box of love interest. Like immediately. he didn't even have to mention it. I mean, if he wouldn't, if this literally that one line wouldn't have existed, we would not be talking about this right now. Because
that's specifically
nowhere,
that line. It's not so much that she saved him and now he's kind of hanging on because like
yeah, because
thankfulness.
there's nothing there. There's no romance between them. There's no like trying anything. There's no like, him being awkward around her because he's so in love. No, there's none of that in there.
No, but that's what I
And
mean.
that's
So it's not
what
so you nothing against magic or the fact that they're kind of
no, this
like
would have been
partners
fine
right
if
now in that
he,
sense.
yes, that there would have been no problem with this. I mean, we could have just assumed that there was no relationship going to happen. But the fact that he had to mention it, like in this kind of past, I don't know if this is like the future Bloodshot talking about what happened or if it's just
Yeah,
a
that was like
inner
that
monologue.
noir narration kind of thing. The
Yeah,
dame
I
walked
mean,
in and I knew she was trouble.
right. And so I mean, if he hadn't mentioned that, like on any of this, like, oh, I fell in love with her or whatever, then I wouldn't have even been thinking about it because because the rest of the conversations that they have and all the back and forth that they have just seemed completely natural. It was just, I mean, the fact that he wants to take her along, that's fine. He feels bad for her. He wants her protected or whatever, just because, she's in a shitty situation or whatever. Or maybe he just needs some human contact again. He just wants to be with someone. That's fine. And it just feels right. It feels natural. But the fact that right away, I mean, and this is also the thing, the fact that he said that he loves her or loved her or whatever immediately after he met her, that also is one of those things where I just feel like that's just cheap and there's no point in doing that. I mean, if you want to, you can watch a relationship maybe develop over time or something like that. But that's fine. But I just feel like with this, just like, oh, here's the woman, I need to love her, and that's what we're gonna now. We've boxed her in already before you even get to know her as a person, before you even get to see if she and I even work on that kind of level. So you don't even have an opinion. You, the reader, don't even have an opinion yet if these two would be a good couple or not, if they're, like at all interested in each other. I mean, as far as we know, they could just be him, just like a one-sided relationship thing going on right now that he's just like looking at her like, oh, she's hot, I love her. And we don't know. And I just feel like it's so that line could have just been cut out immediately. I mean, if it was important that Bloodshot and Magic got together in the end, like later, that's fine. I mean, if the dynamic between them is fine and it feels natural that they get together or whatever, that's great. But the fact that he said it right away at the beginning before we even got to know her, that feels creepy and annoying and tropish and just stupid.
Honestly, yeah, no, I mean, I was looking up because I thought when you said that it was like, yes, that she shot the guy. It was
No,
not
it was
until
when
the
they were in a
last page
motel.
of issue 4.
Yeah.
And I do agree that one, like if you were to remove that one like caption there in the first panel, it would flow the same, like it would flow without that intention, so to speak. Because again, it's like, and that's how I met the girl and the name Magic. And then it goes into, wasn't in love with her even then. But if you
No,
skip
no, you have to
that,
do it in the gruff voice. Was I in love with her then?
yeah, there you go.
Christ.
But then
Was there
after, but
even
if
a
you skip
time I
that,
wasn't in love with her? I can't remember now. It's gone. Like so many things. Yeah.
No, but exactly. So, and you just wanted to have an excuse to do that voice.
I just wanted to do that voice. You're right.
So, but yeah, no,
After
exactly.
all,
But if you then read the
what
next
came
one,
next was mostly pain and death and war. Anyway.
Yeah, no, that's what I mean. But then with the next one after the like hold and love thing. So, because that's more ambiguous. This whole, if I knew then what I know now, would I have taken her with me?
If I knew then what I know now, would I have taken her with me, or
because again, I can see the whole
smart thing and left her in that apartment. All right, now you can go.
Yeah, no, because I agree. Because for me, like, sure, there's that whole love thing that he like brings up, but in general, it feels more of this whole because we all obviously can tell from this volume that Bloodshot's just confused of what to do. Like he himself kind of, I guess, kind of sees the I don't know how to say it, like the stupidity of the whole plot in the sense of you go through this whole crossover event where you lose your nanites
Yeah.
and then you immediately get in your own series again and oh wait, you got to get them back.
Right.
So it kind of feels like, if anything, you could say that Caden is responsible for all those massacres.
Always blaming it on the girl, man.
Yep. Now, you know what I mean in the sense of, I don't know, it just feels like one could, how would I say it? Well, the thing is, I mean, he's a very reluctant hero with all this, but he has this sense of responsibility since he's just thinking, like, well, they are mine. No one else should have to bear that burden. And I kind of feel that it's more of that feeling I'm getting with his relationship with magic at this point. Besides the caption. He has like crap, well, he has no one else, it seems like, and she herself then, I guess, is kind of codependent on people. So like, what should I do? I can't just leave her, I guess. If I leave her right in here, she might get like in trouble with the police, being in this room with the dead body and all that.
Right.
So for me, it feels a lot more of a, trying to think like of another movie or show with a similar setup. I know there must be. I can't think of one at the moment. But I just kind of feel like, yeah, it's, little partners in crime in a sense now, but not reluctant one, but I don't know. I'm rambling.
Well, I just feel like, he is lonely. And I feel like that was one of those reasons why he decided to take her along. So, you know what I mean? Is that would have been a good enough reason for him to take her along. Just like, look, he's lonely. He wants someone to talk to. She is in danger. So there is a different reason that he can give for why he rescued her or why he took her along. And yeah, I mean, you can see at the end of volume 5 or issue 5 that he does have a point. He is like, he is, he has decided to basically kill Kay and Bloodsquirt in order to stay with this real woman. And it's like, it is one of those things where that's development that he has there. And I think that is important for the story. That he's not like snapping back to reality and he's trying to be, his own man right now. And I think it's a good story. And I think my only problem again with that was that whole love thing at the beginning. That
was not in the beginning. That's the thing. It's at the very, or you don't mean like page count. You mean in terms of the meeting?
Yeah, in terms of the meeting. That we just got to know her, and then it's like, okay, time to love her. I don't know. I mean, that's why that's why the things like I'm gonna talk about maybe My Hero Academia right now because that's like fresh in my mind. No, but I mean, there's that one. I think you even mentioned there's the anti-gravity girl and then the main character Midoriya, and it's kind of obvious that they kind of like each other, but it's never any kind of like, it's never really obvious, you know what I mean? Or sorry, it is obvious, but they don't mention it. They're never like, oh, he's so hot and oh, she's so cute and oh, I really want to be with him and stuff like that. They're just being good friends at the moment. They're just liking each other as friends. They don't, I mean, yeah, sure, there's a little awkward glance every now and again where you kind of see that they kind of do like each other more. But it's one of those things where it's just like the story is happening and they're doing their own thing and they're supporting each other and they're just being like good people. And so I feel like, I mean, I would love it if they got together at the end or whatever. And that they like, because you feel like there's a relationship based already. Like they already have started a relationship and something can develop out of that. But if the first episode or the first time that they meet was immediately like a big thing where it was like, oh, like he was like nudging the guy next to him, like, oh, who's that girl? She's really hot. I really want to like date her or whatever. That would have ruined everything. Because then it's all like, oh, it's all about that, and this is the same feeling I get here is that as soon as he talked about like how he's in love with her, like asking if he was already in love with her back then or if he's in love with her, whatever, it's just like, oh, okay, so that's what you've kind of boiled her down to. she's basically going to be your love interest for the rest of this comic, and that's just like, I don't know. Otherwise, a very good comic, but this just it's not good.
All right, but I was kind of curious. So in general as well. So in general, is this an improvement over the original series in terms of just everything, or?
I can't really say. I mean, I do enjoy this kind of storytelling more, where it's more realistic like this. Because I don't really like all that whole huge, like the planet is about to be destroyed, and now we need to save it by just defeating this huge world-eating monster or something like that. I like the more personal stories, the ones where, yeah, I mean, where an inner monologue would help, like with this one, where there's just a person going through something and they need to fight something and they need to overcome something. It might be something small, but for them, it's like the hugest thing. I mean, it's like with this. I mean, he's more overcoming like a mental state than really something physical. I mean, he is doing some physical stuff, but most of the time, yeah, he's just like thinking about, should I save these people, and what does it mean about me? Because he's basically being drawn by these nanites, and he doesn't want to lose the control that he now has. But he wasn't really doing anything with his life without the nanites. And at least while he had the nanites, he was a hero. He was actually helping people at least some of the time. And that's an interesting thing to talk about and to how do you call it, like develop or explore. That's something that's really interesting to explore. And that's why I feel something like this is much more compelling than, something where, I mean, obviously it's cool to watch the crossover where the Eternal Warrior has to fight the immortal enemy and all his buddies are helping. That's fun. But this is more interesting. And I think, yeah.
Yeah, no, but I guess it's just a matter of like balance in terms of like, and switching it up here and there. So like after, having this as a sequel to The Valiant, it definitely changes it up enough. So I think that it's just a refreshing take on what we've been used to. So I think that's kind of the thing, just nice to switch things up where like, okay, we had like a big planet destroying thing right now. But now this next time it's going to be something a little more down to earth. And then maybe once we've gotten used to that, maybe we'll have something else pop up that's a little more dangerous. So, but I think you're absolutely right in terms of like it being more engaging when it's a bit more. It's not that it's small scale, but it's just that. Well, it's like we were talking about earlier too. Like the stakes feel more attainable and are more engaging at this moment.
Yeah, exactly.
But that was let's go. I'm surprised, after all the discussion about like female characters and such, you never mentioned the Diane Festival.
Yeah. Totally forgot about her. So what? She also has a psiot power or something, or
I'm not sure. It's hard to tell because it kind of looks more like. I mean, I guess that's the whole thing. Is every kind of psychic power psiot then, or can you be sort of pseudo psychic without being a psiot in this universe? And also the whole thing with being a psiot, it's that it's hard to activate yourself. It's very rare. I don't know. It's hard to tell, or if she's just like super smart.
Or is that traumatic event that triggered it?
Oh, true. Yeah, that could. Yeah, true. That's one of the reasons for it. So, but I don't know. But I liked her. I mean, I like those her and what's his name, Director Cole. I don't know. It's just something fun with like it's the kind of buddy cop thing.
Yeah.
So you got the by the books cop, and then you got the eager young recruit.
Looky here, little kid. I'm not going to work with no kid. See?
Exactly. I think he even says that. Well, sort of. And what are you anyway? Like 12 years old? But I don't know.
And it's always so funny. What was he, 27? And I was like, oh god, no, 23.
Yeah.
Like, oh god, what am I doing with my life?
So now I don't know. Just I I think the important thing for any like kind of story like this, well, like for any story really, but any kind of like sort of like crime, because it is technically a crime drama. This comic right now,
Mm-hmm.
you have like the whole police procedural thing going on with these two. Law and Order, Bloodshot. I was waiting for you to do the Law and Order dun dun.
Oh, I never really watched Law and Order, so I don't
Oh,
know.
okay. I thought you watched that. Oh, never mind.
Why would I watch Law and Order?
No, Cold Case. That was the one you liked.
Yes.
Sorry.
God damn, dude, your knowledge of me is pretty good. Like, Cold Case was something I watched like 10 years ago, 5 years ago. Damn, girl.
Well, of course, we have known each other for 10 years, Chris. Anyways. No, but the thing is, again, they're not like, super original, these two. I mean, you can just see like on the expressions of their faces, especially with Cole. I mean, yeah, I'm just seeing here on in issue 2, just going, you know how many crank calls and false tips that we've been getting, special agent. You can just tell the whole like, I'm so sick of this shit. And she's just like, well, I know better than you. But I don't know. I'm just genuinely. It's kind of a weird thing because obviously you want Bloodshot to succeed and continue.
Yeah.
But I honestly kind of like am rooting for the cops too in that sense. Just kind of like, come on, I want to see them succeed too. They're working so hard. I hope things work out.
Well, I mean, obviously, it's gonna be one of those things where it's like, where everyone, kind of wins in some way. Like the cops are gonna be there and be like pointing their guns at Bloodshot and be like, stop, we finally caught you. And then Bloodshot's like, but I have to kill him, it's my sense of justice. And then the police will be like having to make the decision of shooting him or not. And even though it's pointless if they shoot Bloodshot, but they think they have power, and then they decide not to shoot him and be like, all right, you do what you need to do. And then he does it, and then everyone's happy and everyone feels like they won. And then the cops will be like, but I'll get you next time, Bloodshot. And that's how that works.
Yeah, a little Lupin deferred kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
They're usually pretty good with having there be like another criminal involved that's technically worse. And then like the what's called Zenigata gets to like capture them, but he still gets to miss out on Lupin. I'm just kind of going through here and stuff, and I'm on issue 4 now.
Mm-hmm.
And I just really love near the end there after they come into like the apartment where he met Magic. And I just really like what's called Doyle's or Hoyt Doyle, I guess she's calling him Hoyt.
Hoyt. I actually thought, sorry, there's that one scene when they're in the movie theater and one of the police officers turns around and looks at what's her name?
Diane Festival.
Festival, yeah. Looks at Festival before they like get to know her, and he says Hoyt, like basically saying to him, I thought it was a weird way of saying hot. Like saying HOWT, like hot. I thought he was basically making like a,
so it's like
a
when
statement.
We say like noise and stuff like that.
Yeah. I thought it was like Hoyt. I didn't realize that was his name. Like you see a hot girl, you just like go to your next guy and be like Hoyt. Oh God. All right. Anyway, you were saying?
Yeah, in a non-funny thing, and so I just really like the it getting to him. I don't again, and this is where I feel the hyper rendering really helps sell it. I mean, again, I love some simplistic like drawings where you can get so much mileage out of very few lines. But you can just that last panel in the corner there, just really feel all those what's called wrinkles in his face as they're all contracting into this like sobbing. It's like, that's what I mean. Like I never got any of those feelings reading the issue 5. But here I just get the emotion from these scenes, and just something nice with a character like this who I'm not sure if we ever got his age, but he's got to be like at least twice her age.
Yeah.
So maybe like 50 something or at least late 40s. But just kind of, he must have seen a lot of awful stuff, and just to have this minor breakdown right now. It's just like, just nice moments like this. Again, these, they're not very original characters, these two, but the way it's told, I'm like, I'm engaged and I really like them. But other than that, I think we've gone through most of the things here.
Yeah.
So the new characters. So yes, some of like the new stuff that's been going on. So I really like what's called the volume cover. Oh yeah, sorry, yeah, it wouldn't be the volume cover for us in that sense, but the issue 1. Yes, the what's called bloodshot red circle, and then all the bodies collapsing out of it.
Yeah. That I feel like that could have been maybe better suited for Rye. With all the bodies falling out, because like haven't all or most of the previous Ryes been cast out of New Tokyo or New Japan?
Yeah, I guess so in a sense.
Because I kind of felt like, when I kind of saw that in the thumbnail, I thought that was a Rye volume just because of all the people falling down. But yeah, I guess not.
No, that's true. But I mean, they have their connection and stuff, which we will be learning more of later.
Oh yes.
But like I've said, it's kind of funny how it's the reverse in the reboot, where Rye was introduced first in the original.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, Bloodshot was actually a very late addition to the Valiant universe. So in the original one. Like, yeah, I mean, his whole first appearance was just in that. Oh, right, no, we didn't read that. It was this what's called what was it called now? Was it Rhine? No, that wasn't Rhine number 0. Was it Bloodshot number? I can't remember what it was called. It was this one special one-shot the volume, comic issue,
mm-hmm.
where they were what's called where basically we kind of got a whole what's kind of like the new thing they did, what's called the Book of Death that I mentioned a while back, where they basically tell you how everything ends.
Yeah.
It was basically like that, but in the 90s. And the whole thing was basically just sort of, besides telling you how it all ends, it also basically sets up then Bloodshot. So just one whole volume or one whole issue just to say oh, by the way, we have a new character here who's sort of related to Rai, but in the present. And we're going to explain how they're connected later. Actually, what was my point?
I don't know.
I'm sorry. But I think we've had our say. You don't have any other comments?
Nope.
Well, that was the 57th episode of Heartcast, detailing Bloodshot Reborn, Volume 1. You can discuss this episode on Reddit, tweet us, or you can follow us on Facebook. Links are in the show notes. Also, all of our episodes are available on our hosting site, Podbean. Catch us next time for our next episode, discussing Archer Armstrong, Volume 7, 1% and Other Stories.
Oh, God damn, not them again.
Well, again, like I said, it's just more like a collection of all these little one-shots that they had.
Man, last time I read a Quantum and Woody, I wanted to stop making this podcast.
No, it's not them. Archer and Armstrong.
Oh, sorry. All right, that's okay then.
That's just great, just